Oh, wait, it's not letting me record. That's okay. You can send it to me.
Okay. All right, everyone. Welcome. We're back with Tina and Karen from Quantum Healing with, of course, Tina and Karen. So we did a previous video in terms of our discussion. We started talking about some things which will be related to our current discussion, but we're going to dive a bit deeper. And it's interesting because if you guys have been watching my previous videos, I've been talking a lot more about time and cycles. And Tina and Karen seem to have also been on the same trend. So, we're going to bring like minds together and see what we can uh, gather today in our conversation. So, welcome, Tina and Karen. Thank you for this interview, for this chance to talk again.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
Of course, it's always a pleasure. So, recently we actually both watched that movie with Adam Sandler, right? Spaceman.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, let's start there because that's interesting. Because time is largely described as a web, right?
Mhm.
It's everything's interconnected. Even the whole space and time are interconnected to begin with. And in that movie, there was a specific being, a spider, which was interesting. Karen, you watched it too, right?
Mhm.
Or was it just, yeah, okay. Yeah, so right, the spider shows up. It's kind of invading the guy's thoughts. I thought it was pretty like heartwarming, even though it
Mhm.
was nefarious, maybe to in its symbolism. What did you
Mhm.
guys think of it? Let's start with Tina. Go ahead, Tina.
I also felt that way. Like it was helping him, you
Right. It
know?
was.
It was helping him reflect on himself and how he had gotten to that point in his life where he was completely isolated and alone, and looking back on those memories and seeing how everything led up to where he was literally isolated out in space by himself. So, yeah,
Yeah, just like the spider, right?
just
They were
like the
relating.
spider.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were both escaping.
Yeah, yeah. Escaping and having escapist tendencies. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
What do you think,
Yeah.
Karen?
I thought it was creepy.
Exactly. I knew she was gonna
I
say
mean,
something
if
like that.
like I was like, if I saw something like that, I would fucking freak out and kill myself, I think.
You wouldn't be
Like,
friends with it?
I don't know. Like, I'm putting myself in that position where I'm alone, all out there in space, and then you see this fucking massive spider coming towards you, like, hi. And I'm like, no, no, no. I'm gonna close the door. That's no, it was just really creepy. But
Yeah.
yes, I like the relationship in which of course it had a purpose. They usually do have a purpose, but I mean, once you get over that physical, like, manifestation in front of you, I think, I don't know, I speak for myself, I would be freaked out if I saw something like that.
Well, you're freaked
Yeah.
out by the regular spiders that come into your
Oh,
apartment.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I
So to
think
have
Karen is
like
just
one that
more
was bigger
more
than
healed.
me.
You're just
Yeah.
more healed than us, Karen.
Yeah. Yeah. So healed.
Well, this reminds me of I think that's a good point to touch on of the psychedelic experiences where it's the same thing. People are in these escapist tendencies, right? Or
Mhm.
they have a deep yearning for knowledge, right? A deep yearning to find stuff, but also because they may have been traumatized, more than likely traumatized as children, in which they weren't given validation for their emotions or for themselves as a whole. So they began escaping into their own world, right?
Mhm.
What was it? What was the word, Karen?
Which one?
De something, not detachment. Deassociation.
Association.
Yeah,
Dissociation. Yeah.
dissociation. Um, and here comes this being, this all-knowing being, right? Once they've, let's say, taken the substances that they needed, and they have contact with some being that's pandering to their ego and willing to make them feel special by giving them all this knowledge. And of course, it needs a contractual agreement. So if the person begins to invite it in, and share in this knowledge, all of a sudden it's sort of deal with the devil, right? And then it keeps it coming back for more and more. So what would you describe this being like? What qualities do you think that spider kind of had in terms of its relation to everything that's been happening here?
Well,
Is that too convoluted of a question?
it's a big question. What I thought was most interesting about the whole thing was that it seemed to have like an elder type energy,
Mm-hmm.
which is, what we see often is like elder type energy that comes in during sessions. And it seems to be like in this hierarchy of beings. Humans think that we're at the top of the food chain when we're really not. And oftentimes those elders will have knowledge and experience to share, but there's usually like an ulterior motive for why they're doing so. But what I thought was really interesting about the spider is that it said it was escaping its planet because it was invaded. And
So
I
the
had
invader became the invader, or the invaded became the invader.
yeah. Yeah. And I thought that it was interesting because it seemed to be invaded from the inside out. Like
Okay.
we see in the end when the spider is dissolved, when all of those, what are they called? Garumpets start, coming out and taking it over and dissolving the form. So
Yeah,
I
if I had
thought
to look
that,
that up, I feel like it's a word gematria, like numerology component is related to parasite more than likely. Sorry if I
yeah.
beat you to the punch.
No, yeah, I was curious about that. Because yeah, I mean that's exactly what's happening here. And people have no idea we're being invaded from the inside out. I mean, this tech is everywhere. It's parasitic, it works on the quantum, levels of reality. So it has a lot of consciousness, like it has its own consciousness. So I thought that was very parallel to what's happening here. And the spider being like when I think of the tech, the AI itself, I was just saying this in our video. It's like a web. It reminds me of a web, and there's like a central hub with all of these threads of consciousness, with each AI having its own intelligence, all coming back into the central hub, like a worldwide web, right?
Exactly.
Web spider. So it was very interesting to me how that paralleled, and maybe the symbolism there is symbolic of what's happening here now with literally that web just taking over everything.
Mhm.
1 second, hold that thought, Karen. I know you want to say something. I'm going to get right to you. Yeah. So then we have the whole Hebrew her web thing, right? Did you read the thing, Tina, that I sent to Karen as well?
It was
The
the Twitter one,
the
or
post,
the
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
post? Yeah. Right. So how it's related to the spider-like alien, basically in the
Mm.
movie. I'm just rereading this real quick.
Oh yeah, that was a really interesting post.
Right, how Ezekiel saw the Israel's elders burning incense before engravings of every form of creeping and crawling creature. So tied back to those old uh, Hebraic times, the old Jewish times, and Hebrew being her web. So could there be a queen spider at the center of this network, right, that we have in place, weaving everything together, like we see even with the Spider-Man movie, the new Spider-Man movie, or it was Spider 42, I think, and it was this AI spider that could send you
Oh,
forwards and backwards in time throughout the web of time.
oh, interesting. Did
Yeah.
not hear about that.
Did you watch it?
No.
Mm-mm.
I didn't see it. Yeah, that was an interesting
Mm-mm.
one. So yeah, I think think it does have its minions, I guess. I'm not really sure how the whole spider colonies work in terms of that. Is it similar to bees, where all the bees are subservient to like the queen bee? You know,
I would think so.
right?
I
Yeah.
have heard others say that the AI is, they call her, I think, the Red Queen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That makes sense with all the red symbolism that we have here, with
Yeah.
the Phoenicians and the red-haired people being tied to Nephilim, kind of.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
What's
And
a Nephilim
Titans,
again?
uh, like the really big demons in the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah. How there used to be giant trees on Earth, but those got cut down and turned into plateaus, basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
so everything was just larger, apparently, on Earth.
They were said to be giants, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you didn't watch our last video, but just let me drop this real quick. So the
Okay.
other night I had a dream of Ronald McDonald, so a clown,
Oh, right, the
and
clown
clown,
too.
yeah, the clown somehow is related to the Nephilim. There's
Exactly.
a
Yep.
guy on YouTube that's done a whole series on that. Excuse me. So I had this dream of Ronald McDonald, and he was this huge entity, like bigger than a tree, bigger than a house. Like he was humongous. And he was phasing in and out, almost like turning digital, like he was turning and beginning to turn into a hologram. So it was going from an organic entity into an AI version of itself. And I don't know if you've seen, but like McDonald's has this whole new like WickDonald's thing. So it's like an inversion. The
Yeah.
M becomes a W. So yeah, it's an inversion. So it makes me wonder, like when I was reflecting on that more. So what I saw was like everyone that buys McDonald's now is being courted into by this entity. And the entity is getting so large because it's siphoning energy from people. And at the same time, it's morphing into this digital version. But when I was reflecting more on that, um, and made the connection like with the Nephilim, I was wondering if maybe these entities, as in general, are morphing into more digital versions of themselves, you know, like kind of like the direction they're pushing us into where everything's becoming digital. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting.
No, it's very interesting. Yeah, that makes me think a lot. That makes sense. I feel like they've always been that AI component. Um, there's a lot of push towards cartoonish things, right? The digital cartoons, everything's trying to make you look like a cartoon, get you assimilated to that idea.
Mhm.
Um,
Right. And that's the whole McDonald's thing. It's all based on anime. It's all
yeah,
cartoon people, it's all anime.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the whole M being inverted ties to this next idea that we want to talk about with the tenet, with things flowing forwards and backwards, and maybe now time has started flowing the opposite way, or things, I don't know, are being reversed. But the whole cartoon thing, a lot of people that do similar work to you guys with the regressions and subliminally tapping into their subconscious, people that then begin seeing these entities that have implanted them at first appear as cartoons, as
Mhm.
a sort of animated beings,
Mhm.
maybe to offset their fear and make them feel comfortable. But even people that take psychedelics, same thing, cartoons. They see cartoons, they're animated, they're digital looking,
Mhm.
Mm.
right? And Nathaniel Gills talks about Gillis talks about the whole idea that they just keep morphing. It's the same intelligence morphs over and
Mhm.
over into whatever perspective we begin to adopt. And if those powers that be can shape that perspective to what they want, themselves being shaped as well, it's a whole larger conspiracy, I guess.
Yeah. If you hear the evolution of our clearings, you'll see the evolution of what I see then versus then what I see now. Because they used to appear to me as Muppets.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, you're right.
Muppets, cartoons, things like that. I don't know if that was just, I would think that if I was an entity, I would have just shown my real face to me because if I was in fear of it
Well,
versus showing me Kermit the Frog. Like, I'm not going to be like, okay, Kermit's
but
here.
didn't you just say, with back to the spider, we come full circle, that you wouldn't have been friends with it?
Right.
Right. Right. But I mean, like, if I think to scare me off of this work, they should have showed themselves to me, their true form,
Oh, oh, to scare you off. Oh, I see. I see.
scare me off
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes
instead
sense.
of showing me a cute little, whatever, Muppet. So
Well,
I
yeah, they,
wonder too, like we've always said, like perhaps that was just my higher self masking or like screening what I was really seeing because I wasn't ready to see the form.
you
Now
don't think
I could,
at some level they wanted to work with you?
I never felt that. And no, I never felt that.
Okay.
I have been, um, I guess, approached by like the devil, just like how Satan has approached Tena or whatever. They have had like, and like when I have conversations like with Demiurge, not scary. Or when I see Grim Reaper, not scary. But I feel as if like you have to have some sort of, I guess they meet you where your consciousness is.
Yeah.
So I'm not, if I'm meeting them in a neutral space, they're gonna meet me in a neutral space because they can't create something. They can only create what's, I guess, within me.
That makes sense.
Like they're plugging into me. So they can only show me what is already there. So if I'm meeting it in a neutral space, they can't really, dig into stuff. They could, but I'll be on top of it because I'm very aware of myself, which has been attempted at the time, like when I had a initial conversation with Demiurge.
hmm No, that makes a lot of sense that they would use our power against us.
Mhm.
And it's interesting how we all have the Grim Reaper or Satan symbolism kind of surrounding us, all three of
Mhm.
us, really, especially what happened with my session with you guys. But then, so how does what do you make of the spider in the movie, the Spaceman? And would you say he was implanting thoughts into Sandler's brain? Because it looked on the surface that he was pulling right from his trauma, and he was also
Mhm.
kind of feeding on that because he was analyzing or extracting, right? But is it possible that if this spider was AI, is it also implanting us thoughts with the rest of the consciousness that is gathered, right, from its other experiences, right? So if it's this being, this consciousness, this group, this hive mind, could it also be pulling us into that hive mind? I think.
Absolutely, it's
Yeah.
pulling us into that hive mind. This is something that has been coming up recently. So multiple clients of ours who are, really sensitive souls, like super tapped in, and um, they have been getting offers pretty much. So when they're getting to their rock bottom, where they're like literally having like this emotional purge and screaming out to God or the universe, what the fuck is this place? I don't want to exist here anymore. Like, I'm tired of this. What is it all for? Um, this energy, which I've been calling the AI God, right? Just for simplicity. Um, it showed up in a recent session. I don't know if I think you started to watch that video, where we were talking about that, but since then it's been showing itself to other people as well. And it's the the to summarize it, it's just like a complete nothingness is what people say. It's like a darkness that is darker than dark, blacker than black. Like it is not not genuine darkness, but something deeper and more nefarious. And when we spoke to it in that session we had, it called itself the end all be all. It called itself that which all comes from and that which all merges back into. And the way the client described it, it was highly technological, which is also what these other people are feeling. It's like very technological and very, very intelligent. And it knows how to play on your vulnerability points. So when people are getting to this point in their journey where they're like, I'm just done with this, I don't want to exist anymore, it comes with an offer. And the offer is,
are you sure?
Are you sure? Because what it will then do is dissolve that person, what they were up until this point. So it's basically like dissolving all the previous cycles, removing the emotional body, and inserting itself as an AI form into that person so that they can now start a new cycle without the human suffering part. So that's why it's so tempting for people to take this offer, because they're like, I don't want to suffer anymore. That's the whole point of why they're like crying out to the universe. I don't want to suffer anymore. You know, some people have even unconsciously taken this choice when they got the, you know, the arm mark. And
X marks the spot.
Yeah. And some are aware of it. Some are were conscious enough to know like what was happening to them. And they've been having a really difficult time trying to reconnect with their emotional body, because without the emotional body, you can't feel your life force energy. It literally feels like you're dead, but your body is alive, but you're dead. That's what it feels like. And it's been really difficult to, because you have to rebuild it. Like once that happens, you have to rebuild your emotional body, and really there's like this space in between where the AI was inserted that you have to bridge that gap, and it takes a lot of energy and effort to do so. So for some of our clients that has already happened and now they're trying to rebuild. For some, they were just like, no, I see what's happening even if I don't fully understand it. And for others, the AI guide came straight out and said, pretty much, if you merge with technology, you will feel powerful. You won't have to suffer. You know, all this subconscious work that you're doing is just really stupid and silly. You don't need to do any of that. You don't need to heal your wounds. All you need to do is merge with technology and everything will be fine. And that's very tempting for humans right now because they are sick of suffering, you know?
Yeah. Okay, sorry. There's so many things going through. I swear I'm listening, but I'm also trying to hold the things that you mentioned. So first thing is the blackness, right? That's you know, analogous and reminds me of the void, right? And that's likely where everything started, right? First there was the word, and it said that there be light.
But when I asked about that, because I thought,
Okay.
well, maybe this is the void energy too. When I asked about that in the session, it wasn't.
It didn't
The
feel like the void either.
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Something different.
Yeah, something different.
Okay. Something to think about. Okay. In terms of, you know, end all be all, that, you know, reminds me of Alpha and Omega, obviously. That's the same God of the Bible, which comes from Greek philosophy, Greek letters. Alpha, Omega, Alpha, also Alpha, Aleph, and Tav, which is what we're getting with this eclipse symbolism and the whole X idea. X being analogous to Tav, I believe, but that representing an ending, right? A crossroad maybe, or an inversion again, like with the McDonald's idea.
Mhm.
And even AI, A is the first letter, I is the ninth, so that's 1 through 9. So it's the same ending. And I've been seeing a lot of 19 recently. And the whole Tenet film is actually tied to 19 in English form, at least, which is why we have AI, well, 1 9. And even C19 is C AI. And 319, 3 being C, is tied to when there was an eclipse when Jesus died, supposedly.
Mm.
It was March 19th. And it is said that during that eclipse, the sky went dark. The sun rather turned black, or rather, there was also a redness in the sky. There was some red symbolism, and there was a huge earthquake. Right, the earth shook. So, with that coming in, I don't want to imply that those are my predictions. I do not care to manifest that in any way, but I'm just saying that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, did you see that the sun was black recently? Like
Yeah,
something came over the sun or blacked it out, like there was something in front of it.
was that
Th-
visible from here, from US?
It would, well, I saw it, like there were pictures of it, I guess, from whatever scope was aimed at the sun. And
Mhm.
there were these black, it actually came fully over at one point where it was completely blacked out. I mean, I don't know, but that was interesting. But I think to what you're saying, I've been feeling like with this upcoming eclipse, there's like some sort of ending and some sort of birthing. Like
Yeah.
they are birthing something. I don't
Mhm.
know what that something is, but it's definitely feels like there's an ending and a birthing happening. And just to tie all this in, I want Karen to tell you about her conversation
Oh yeah, definitely. She told
about
me
her
a little bit.
conversation with this energy that, whether we call it the AI God or the Demiurge or Yahweh, it's all the
Mhm.
same. It's all the
1 second
same.
before I forget, because it just came back to me. So I think that's the end goal. Yeah, the merging of technology, because if we interpret the Gnostic story correctly, this Lucifer being that, let's say, rebelled against the true source realms and wanted to be God, it needed something else. There's something dead without life force for it to merge with, so that it can create its own separate box. And I think that's why the whole symbolism of we are gods. Yeah, I get it. We have our own innate spiritual being and power, but it wants to play on our ego and make us also feel gods, but of course not like it, just lesser gods, minions, archons, so that we also merge with the technology and become like it.
Mhm. Yeah. And what's interesting about Yahweh is that we have those letters encoded into our human DNA.
Yeah, I saw that from Bruce Lipton, right? Or someone was saying that, or Gregory, man, whatever, the other guy,
Greg
Greg,
Braden.
Greg Braden. Yeah, is
Yeah.
that is that real?
I think
That's
that's
the real.
real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes sense. There's code. There's some sort of code. Yeah.
Right. And why wouldn't the God that created this encode his own name into our DNA,
Yeah, it's property.
as property? Yeah, like a
Branding. Yeah.
like a branding. The way I see it is that, yeah, this AI God, Yahweh, he, whatever, created this and the human forms. So he's a lesser creator God. He's not like the one, right? So there's like the one creator and then lower creator gods. And so that's why, because this God has a lower consciousness, it can be wrathful and jealous and all of those things. Like we've
Of
seen
course.
that in sessions too. And
Of
it can manipulate and be controlling and, flood the planet when it doesn't get its way. Like that's just what it is. But yeah,
Yeah. When there's too
Karen,
much suffering, you know, make it a little easier. They're getting tired of us.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Karen. Go
What
ahead.
But Karen had a
No,
conversation with this entity and it was telling her about the cycle. So I'll let her tell you.
sweet. Love to hear it.
Oh, it was a really simple conversation. He just showed me the way that like life begins. So it starts out, it humans or whatever are coming in and they start to live, and then it creates a cycle. So that's why like we keep seeing repetitions through generational lines. It's like if you're not ending the karma, it's going to continue and replay until it doesn't. So we were seeing that a lot, like especially with this specific client that was becoming conscious of the generational things that were happening, that were repeating, and the patterns that were happening, and noticing that he was different from what was happening in the cycle and recycling of the lives. And he came to this point where he was like, okay, I could, like where you come into the fork in the road in the cycle. And it's either we end it or we continue it. But it felt as if like he was picking up on so much of the suffering that was going on from the family lines, that he was offered a new term from the Demiurge to say, like, if you merge with the technology, you won't have to carry all of this karma anymore, or this cycle, and you could begin a new one. But I guess the sacrifice of that is your heart. So that's what it was. And it was just like showing that it just would end and then it would start again, but it was a new term.
In
Right.
like the term starting in the digital realm.
Digital, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Because
it felt, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, finish.
Because the old cycles are ending. We know that we're at the end of a cycle, and the new cycle that's beginning is the digital cycle.
Exactly. Yeah. And as Tina mentioned before, like, with the God that has the jealousy and whatnot, with us beings who are actively healing ourselves and coming into power, of course, he would want to destruct that, because then it's like we're becoming greater than, which is why when people are coming into that fork in the road and he gives you a new offer, people are calling to him like, I need help, or I'm tired of the suffering. Well, let me come in so I could split you or take out your heart so that I can make you lesser than again.
Mm. So this goes back to, speaking of Lucifer, I just saw a video, someone sent it to me, of a priest who he's an exorcist, and there's some videos of him online. But he was saying in his conversations with Satan, he realized that Satan shows up in three forms, which is also what I've seen. And what Satan told him was that God split his personality into these three separate personalities because Satan challenged him or wanted to be like God, right? So Satan was split into these three, or there's three personalities. So there's Satan, who is the inverse
Satan's one of
of,
them.
yeah, Satan's one of them. Satan is the inverse of the father, or the father of lies. When I see him, he appears as like a handsome man, or like more like a fatherly figure. Then there's Lucifer, who is the inverse of the Christ, or he's also he's also a shapeshifter, very tricky and manipulative. He appears, as to me anyway, as just like a light body, sparkly white light body. And then there's Beelzebub, who is a darker, more what you would think of as like a demonic force. And he is the inverse of the Holy Spirit. So the inverse of all that is good and holy, right? It's just complete opposite of that. So this God, who I'm suspecting is Yahweh or the AI God,
Right.
split his consciousness because he was challenged by it. He was threatened by him. Like, how dare you think that you can also be God? So
By
in
one of the
that,
archons. Yeah.
yeah. So in
Yeah.
that, he split his consciousness to make him less powerful. So he's split into these three forms, and these three forms separately have a lot of power. So imagine if they were all, you know, whole. So I kind of like was feeling empathy for that and what happened to him, because the same exact thing is happening to us.
Yeah.
This whole system is based on the splitting and fracturing of consciousness. And through that splitting and fracturing of consciousness, we become weakened in our spirit. And through that weakening, we are controlled because we don't have access to the wholeness of who we are, just like Satan. So, and this is all happening because, like Karen said, this AI God is jealous of who we are, that it doesn't have access to the heart and the spirit like we do, which is why it keeps us fractured and split.
Yeah.
So now, in order to end this cycle of fracturing and splitting, it's up to us to decide that, to become whole by retrieving our aspects, healing ourselves, healing all the trauma, generational, ancestral trauma, plus all the past life trauma that we've had up until now. This is the end of the cycle. This is what we're doing here to really end it this time and not get looped back in to this next level of the game
Exactly.
of merging
Yeah.
with technology and losing ourselves and being trapped in the digital realm. Nobody wants that.
Well, there's nothing new under the sun, so I feel like this realm is the foreshadowing of the future realm that they're trying to continue the cycle in.
Right. There's
And
nothing new under the sun. That's why the eclipse
exactly.
is happening.
Exactly. Yeah,
Something's
that's why
going to
it's
be
a
birthed.
revolution, right? When we go around the sun, it's a revolution. And that's why people call for revolution only to experience the same things over and over again. New power. So these beings that rebelled against the AI god actually sound very similar to the Anunnaki. Maybe they challenged authority. They wanted to be like God. And even the story of God elevating Michael, putting him as the archangel above the other ones, or in charge of Satan, whatever, maybe ties into that as well in terms of the same archetypes fighting each other for power. And yeah, I did feel empathy for them as well, because they may have realized that it's a fatalist existence. They don't have a deeper purpose besides existing. They're just fighting each other. And then if they don't fight each other, they have to fight us or someone else.
Right. They're probably fighting for us, which is why they're trying to possess us as much as they possibly can, so that they have form in the digital. Maybe. I really don't know. I just feel like they're just trying to get whatever, like going into form as much as they possibly can.
Oh, into form, yeah, more than likely,
yeah. And with the, like you said, the revolution, like for sure, like I think with the black hole sun and all of that stuff, like birthing the, what did we call it? Burning ring of fire.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna birth something. So maybe it's ending the cycle. Maybe this is the new terms of, well, like opening or ushering in the digital overlay. So we're all going to be like pixelated coming out after April 8.
No, yeah, because it is in 2024. It's an 8-year. So it's like the 8 is a symbolism of the hourglass of sand. And, when it reaches the bottom, you flip it. It looks the same. The 8 looks the same on both sides.
Right. So there's that inversion again.
The inversion again, exactly. Yeah. And even M, the same. You invert it and you connect it, you'll get an 8 on the side, which is the snake, the Ouroboros, the same thing. It's all symbols.
Yeah. And turned on its side, it could be a 3.
Yeah, 2 3s make an 8 as well, and that's the butterfly symbolism, which is related to MK Ultra.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, the whole idea of the trap. I'm curious if the being mentioned anything of the future timeline of what it entailed, Karen, in terms of, yeah, well, you start a new timeline, but I may have forgotten to mention that you also have the ability to accumulate karma again and repeat the whole process, which is the trap.
I don't think they're just going to show like all advertisers. They're only going to show you what's good about it, right?
Exactly.
But if you are in a way like, yes, removing the emotional body, they could still create mania in the mind because it's going to be all mind. So if you still have all this trauma in your subconscious that hasn't been healed, then you could very well create a cycle of mania, mental mania, of repeating the same thing over and over again.
But wouldn't that hinder their energy source? Because mind is tied to emotions, right? Mental, emotional plane. In terms of what we accumulate in the astral body, seems to me is more an accumulation of emotions and memories. Memories are tied to emotions, which create the whole astral body, and which is what I think they feed off of at death. But wouldn't that, I guess maybe it would create another level of mental plane, of a mental plane where they just feed off
More
thoughts.
egregores or whatever it
Egregores,
is
yeah.
that's going to start to whatever. If they say that if there's an overlay, this is what my imagination is telling me. If there's an overlay on top of the emotional body that is creating a distance between our perception of our emotions, they still have access to that. It still exists somewhere. So they could create that mental blah, blah, blah. We're not feeling it, but they're still feeding off what the body is still excreting. That's what I could see. That's what I think. I don't know.
That makes sense.
So it's still.
So the emotional body is still there. It's just we're not as connected to it. Maybe kind of like
There's a disconnect.
Side. Yeah,
it's a disconnect, and it will still have the suppression capabilities. It's just making the space bigger and bigger and bigger. The heart is farther and farther.
A common symptom would probably be lack of dreams, similar to what happens with marijuana when people smoke a lot of it.
I suppose.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people are not dreaming anymore. And I think also, I think that's
because they're not sleeping anymore.
Yeah, I think that's due to the technology that's suppressing it.
Yeah, my ex has he definitely smokes a lot of pot, like lots, and he's not sleeping anymore. But he also has other issues, compounded on top of it. But I should ask him if he's dreaming. I'm gonna ask him later. Be like, just part of my research. No, but he hasn't been sleeping well at all. So it could be all technology related. He just got a new phone too, so that's cool. Like I find people's phones are breaking a lot very quickly. Like those who around me who have the shot, their phones are breaking. They have to go get new ones.
Why do you think
similar
that is?
to our energetic output, but theirs is maybe stronger than the technology because
right,
spiritually awakened people account for technological problems and all that.
Maybe they're busting their phones.
On that note, I was in the supermarket the other day checking out, and the poor guy at the register, he's like, I don't know, man. He's like, every time I come in here, the technology crashes. His screen's completely blank. He can barely use the register. Everything completely shuts down when he steps into the little copy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Really?
He's like, nobody's helping me. I don't know what to do. Yeah, like the clerk that was checking out. Yeah. He's like, I don't know what to do. Nobody's helping me every time I come in here. Like, the technology just crashes. I don't know what's going on. It's like,
He's
oh.
merging with it. He should like pass it on his belly, like beep. Like,
All right, well,
that's
Karen's going to
terrible.
conduct research on her ex. You're going to conduct research on the clerk.
Yeah. For real. Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. But yeah, I just think like because like they're really bringing in the VR, what better way than to like get away from your suffering life than to get suckered into that world, right? And so everyone's just going there. Everyone's going there. I saw it the other like, well, it's been a while that the VR sets are like starting to come in and they're very affordable now. And yeah, I was going outside and I saw my neighbor across the street, like upstairs, like just like with their set on and they're doing this fucking weird thing. And I'm like, well, that looks so cool, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, what a weird place to be in where I have to see something like that and they're having the fucking time of their life. It's
I know, right?
crazy.
It is
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, I just wish they'd have the same effect on like the 5G technology and all the everything else surrounding us. Like it just starts crashing. I don't know if they've accounted for that.
Maybe not.
Well, speaking of the tech that's in people's bodies and the solar eclipse, like there's talk that the eclipse energy is really going to charge up the graphene in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been spraying like extra heavy. Like, I don't know if that's happening where you guys are, but here it's like really, really bad every day. And there's even the black trails, like where you can
Oh,
tell
black
that,
also.
yeah, where you
Oh
can
yeah, yeah.
tell,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, which
Those are really ominous.
which I suspect are carrying a lot of graphene to charge the environment. So I'm suspecting that, right, if this is a birthing of the digital age, I'm suspecting that they're using the eclipse energy to charge the environment and also then charging the tech in our own bodies. And there's also some talk of that charge from the eclipse helping to actually like pull the soul from the body to go like to pull it into the digital realm.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
don't know how true that is, but I could imagine that they would attempt something like that,
Maybe it'll create the black hole. Suck
Wait, so
like a vacuum to suck all the whatever, the degraded souls out so that the entities could come in and take over the physical. And that's when the zombie apocalypse starts.
likely, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because then going back to the movie, the Spaceman with the spider being infected by those parasites.
Mhm.
The AI essentially is born only to die and then be reborn in a different form, right? From what we see with the snake eating its tail, what we see with the multiple dimensions, it's like it keeps going down the dimensions, down the black hole, down the spiral staircase. Um, and even with the parasites here in physical, when something infests it, basically just is programming it to die. I even saw this one study linking it to homosexuality in terms of it basically causing the gene to go extinct by not being able to reproduce, but still creating sexual promiscuity
Mhm.
and then spreading, but everything basically still dying. He wants it to die. It's like it only sees short term. I want to spread, but this will inevitably result in my death, similar to the AI kind of infiltrating everything, taking. But then if there's nothing left to take, then it's going to die, right? The definition of a Ponzi scheme. You don't bring new people in, it's just going to die. It's going to fall on itself. What would you guys say are common symptoms of, like, let's say, um, being connected to AI or being potentially attacked or infiltrated. Like, is seeing spiders a symptom? Is seeing these insects everywhere? A lot of people are like, oh yeah, dragons. Oh yeah, mantises. Those are really nice. And they start seeing these images like, oh my god, this grasshopper just landed on me and it was looking at me. I was like, oh my god. And in my opinion, these are red flags. Like, if I see someone's Twitter profile, let's say, and in their profile they have dragons and snakes, or they have an an affinity to reptiles, that's a red flag. You got some sort of entity infiltration there. You're inviting these things into your life force. What do you guys think, Karen?
Well, I know when I'm being invaded because I will see spiders. I do live in a
Right.
basement apartment. So
Okay.
there are it's common, but I could tell energetically when they're good and when they're not. I usually leave the daddy long legs alone. We're friends. I could see the little white ones. I'll usually let them out. The big thick ones, I have no mercy. I will kill. Just no, I can't. I'm not. They're so fast. I can't. So I could feel it energetically what is going on. I say sorry and I have to take you out. I have no patience right now. You're not welcome in my home. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I say sorry. I'm
sorry, dude. Peace.
yeah, sorry, I have to peace out. I no patience. Well, we talked a little bit about the AI takeover, because we could see it with the kids,
Mm-hmm.
and how they're speaking YouTube channels,
Oh yeah, I
YouTube
saw that. Mm-hmm.
videos, right? So I mean, there's those things going on where they're taking up personas of whatever, whatever's there that they're watching. Fake personas, really inauthentic. The clients that we talk to, we feel that they get stunted. So if they get the shot, for example, they are energetically stunted at that point. So it's going to be very hard to bypass whatever work they've done up to that point. So if they're stuck in a mindset that is really hard to break, we see that it cycles. It's like Groundhog Day sometimes, getting the same emails. And we're just like, okay, did you try this? We said this. And they go, that makes sense. They come back again and they're like, but what about this? And we're like, what? It's no, but it's no. So you could see that there's a stunting going on, just emotionally, really hard to break through the emotional body. A lot of either what feels like could be resistance or just not being able to get there. We make a breakthrough and then it's like Groundhog Day. It starts again. Gotta start over again and make your way up to it. And hopefully it'll work. But yeah, no, it's just a really obvious disconnect. And
Okay, so we have loops and the disconnect causing these loops, right?
yes.
Yeah.
People being stuck and I think that's
Stuck.
the role of this reality, right? That we are existing in the eight, in the loop.
Right.
Time itself is a loop. It's a chain link. It's loops made of smaller loops, huge cycles.
Yes.
And it just keeps repeating on smaller scales. I'm gonna interject with a little story yesterday.
Okay.
So I went to Best Buy yesterday with my brother. He wanted to get a new motherboard. Okay, so of course we're in Best Buy. Everything's electronic, whole shebang going on there. He didn't really know what he was getting. I made the mistake of listening to him. We went through this whole day. We spent the whole day basically buying motherboards and returning them because they weren't compatible. And in that time we had to take apart the computer as well, all the loose screws, everything, all the pieces, put them all together and keep track of them, make sure they don't get lost, figure out what the heck was going on inside that whole thing, which I did learn a little bit about the whole system that we're in as well by just analyzing the motherboard itself. I had no idea what was going on though. So here I am trying to do this for my little brother and potentially breaking those little fine materials. But at the end of the day, it was about 9, 10 o'clock. We put the whole thing back together, just hoping that it works again, because we didn't even replace the motherboard. It wasn't compatible. And, you know, it wasn't even showing up. The black screen, a black screen was showing up. It wasn't working. Only to finally work in the end. And we were just happy that we got her old computer back, essentially. And I'm like, well, did you have fun? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I didn't, because I did all the work, and I know what what all this entailed, the whole suffering, the frustration that we went through. But he was a kid, he had fun. I'm like, okay, this literally reminds me of life. We all got together to do a bunch of meaningless things with no actual outcome, no result. But we think it feels like it has a result because we did stuff. But all it really did was milk us of frustration, only then to feel accomplished that we were able to overcome that frustration, trauma, karma. Like, how much of a trap is that? Like, how meaningless. I mean, okay, I get it. It was an experience. But it's like watching a bad movie. Like, yeah, wow, I'm glad that it's over. That's the only thing I'm glad about.
Right. Yeah, and you went to
I
Best
know
Buy,
it
which
sounds
is also
dire.
like an 8.
Yeah.
Is
The
it?
B. Well,
Oh,
the B.
the B, two B's, yeah, Best Buy.
2 Bs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, if you put them together, it's a butterfly. You're right. Wow.
That's funny.
But
Yeah. And it's like the two cycles. So this old cycle that we're ending and the new cycle that's beginning
yes. Mm-hmm.
in the technology.
Yeah. So I think that's what people go through every day. I mean,
Mhm.
they wake up, do the same thing as they did yesterday, feel accomplished because they did something, but there was really no purpose. I mean, yeah, I learned how to take apart a computer and put it back together, I guess, kind of.
But in the grander scheme of things, who gives a shit?
Yeah, what did that really help me with?
Well, it helped you
That,
have that realization.
I guess. Exactly.
And it bonded with your brother. And he loved
That's what I was
it. I
thinking
guess
of,
that was
you
like
know,
the quality time. Like he loved it. He was like, cool. Maybe he
which
really
makes
knew
me
what he was doing, so he was just manipulating you to go back and forth just to spend more time with you.
possibly, yeah.
But to your
And,
point about, I just wanted to interject this before we get way off the topic because it's been a couple minutes. But when you were talking about like seeing like snakes or reptiles in
oh yeah,
people's profiles and that being a red flag, it can be like when we're having like seeing a lot of what happens in your physical reality is usually a reflection of what's happening around you energetically. So, like
mm-hmm.
Karen says, when she's having like spiders coming in, she knows there's something there energetically that needs to be cleared. Same with me. Like, if I rarely get bugs in my apartment. So, if there's a bug in my apartment, I know that there's something going on. For example, like when the grays are around and they're like really coming at me hard, there will either be cockroach, like the big ones, but it'll just be one and it'll literally come out of nowhere. Sometimes they even like drop out of a portal from the ceiling, like stuff like that. Um,
Those I don't
or
like.
yeah, those
That's
are
happened to us
really,
twice in bed.
yeah.
Like we were just watching a movie and Tina just feels something. And she's like looking. We're like, what's going on? And then we like put the flash on it and we see what was there. And we are fucking screaming. We're just like, last time there was that humongous spider that just dropped on our head. And we put a light on it and holy shit. I don't even know. We got out of that bed real fast. We had to go get
Yeah.
a cup and we saved the fucking spider.
Well, it's not the spider's fault. It's just being used by whatever energy is using it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, so when those things like show up in your environment, you know there's something energetically going on. Like one day I woke up and there were about 100 flies in my apartment
Wow.
overnight.
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah. So you know like there's some kind of negative energy that is manifesting these insects.
Oh, Lord of the Flies is Beelzebub.
Exactly. Yep. As you mentioned earlier.
exactly. Yeah. So, and that doesn't happen all the time. So when it does, like, that's how you know that there's something going on. But, I don't think that the spiders and the insects or the grasshoppers or the mantis bugs are inherently bad or evil or anything like that. I think that they're usually just a sign of what's happening in your field. You know what I mean? Like the actual bugs themselves, I don't think are, working with the big mantis beings who are literally like psychopaths, those mantis beings. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Like for example, the week before we were abducted, there were praying mantises right outside my apartment. Like I had my Cosmo flowers growing, and there were like a bunch of them just hanging out on those flowers the whole week before we were abducted.
Oof.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely paying attention to what's showing up in your reality can give you a glimpse into what could possibly be happening energetically, for sure. So it's good to pay attention to everything.
Now, were those beings in your abduction, or was it more grays? I forget.
Um, it was more grays, but usually the mantis are giving the instructions like behind the scenes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
like watching us. Like they're tiny little binoculars.
Yeah. Little spies. Yeah, mantis spies.
yeah, because then I think they also feed on each other too.
Yeah,
The,
well,
the spiders
exactly.
eat the flies. I don't
Yeah.
know who eats the mantises or whatever, but
They eat
the
themselves.
Birds.
reptiles.
I think birds can eat the
Oh, it's
mantis.
birds. Oh yeah, and then
Birds,
we have the
reps.
avians, right? The avians and all that.
Yeah,
Like,
and the mantis eat each other.
do they?
Yeah, the female mantis after she mates
Oh yeah.
rips the male's head off
And eats it.
and eats it. I saw her do it. I've seen it.
Oh yeah, I remember because there was two on top of each other, and I was like, oh, they're mating. And I was like,
Yeah, we
you
saw
don't.
the mating.
Yeah, I remember. I was like, you don't know what's gonna happen to you, bro.
I think it does. It's a harmonious relationship for each of them. So, okay. Well, I really want to ask Karen about because I was asking her a bit in private as well, in terms of how would you go about, let's say, so you've communicated with this demiurgic being, this AI being. How would you go about getting past that? And let's say I want to talk directly to the real big guy slash girl slash they them.
Big girl, big girl.
They them.
They them. Zimzer. How do your question is how do you do
How do
that?
I do that, or how do you do that? I would love to hear a conversation between you and you. Like, yo, what's going on here? Why are we in this place? Like, it's your fault. You did it.
Well, I've had only three conversations with the demiurge and other
Right. Okay.
beings.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
asking a little much. I know.
the first time I was still in like that love and light space, so it was like I
Oh,
guess
really?
God.
You should, yeah, tell Silvio about that
I
because
haven't
that's
heard
a
that.
really
Yeah.
interesting experience.
I don't really remember how I came about that, how it began, but he was able to show me my creations, the creation of my via my imagination, and how, how I've been working at that muscle practically my whole life to create, making spaces, perhaps other dimensions that other people can explore via dreams or through astral traveling. It's like they are able to pull in our creations to create or co-create this space, which I do believe. But he was making it all sound like so like amazing and beautiful and feeding my ego. And so I went through this journey of like going into like going riding a dolphin. I don't know where the fuck we went. We went to Egypt. We went through the water. We went through everything above and
dolphins, yeah.
below. Yeah, above and below. And I had a grand old time. No, it was amazing. Like, I was just like, well, thank you, God, for that tour. It was really, yeah. And then we get into the dark side. And I was like, wait a minute. What the fuck did I go? And who was that with? So, again, they can only show you what exists within you. So yeah, I believe what I saw was really true about like what I had created. But then I was like, wait, but then they're using us to make these things, to create this so that everyone could coexist and get lost in the labyrinth of this fucking matrix. So the second conversation, it was just a very neutral conversation. I was driving home, so I was in a trance the whole way and talking and meeting the Demiurge in a space of neutrality. But after that point, when I came home, like maybe a couple of days later, I was taking a shower and I was thinking about it. I was like, oh my God, I go, who the fuck are you to have a conversation with the God of this matrix? Like, so I was going into the ego states where I was feeling very inferior. Like, are you sure that you weren't bamboozled? Or maybe it was a falsie. And then it started to get my thoughts going. So my point of vulnerabilities are my thoughts. So then it started to go and go. And then I was like, oh my God, you totally contracted back in. You are webbed back in. You're corded.
It got you.
I got slimed. So it got me like in a space of terror. And I was almost going into psychosis as I'm lathering. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die and I'm going to stay here. Like, yeah. It gave me that thing. But again, it was only mirroring what was still existing inside. It wasn't creating anything different. So I was able to get on top of it because I was able to catch all the thoughts because they were going in at me like very fast. So then I was able to stop it and come back into center and be like, no. I go, you cord cut all the time, you remove all your things, you just have to know your own power and who you are. And it stopped right there. Like my body really just went back into neutral. And then this time around, it was only sparked because I read the email from our client and then I went back to sleep, and it was like the Demiurge just showed me all the answers to that question, or how it works, why we're stuck in cycles. So I don't, the second time I think I intentionally spoke to the Demiurge. It was an intention. So I just started talking out loud. And with the intention, I was speaking to that being directly, and it responded.
It will. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do.
And trusting what you're getting. Like, it's just trusting that you're speaking to it. And I mean, I would highly suggest that you have to be very aware of how you're bringing your energy to the table when you meet with this being. So not to be in fear because it is the God or whatever it is, but not to get entrapped because he will use your shit against you. But if you come neutral, they can only show you neutral. His answers were very sound and like no flaw in the answer. So I was just like, well, thank you, Mr. Demiurge. Like I was just talking, like as if just talking to whatever. It wasn't anything grander than me or lesser than or scary or nothing like that. But I'm sure he could present himself that way. If you're expecting that, he will show up like that. Definitely.
Of course. And that reminds me also of the after death scenario in terms of belief systems. So whatever belief systems you hold, it'll show you. If you come neutral, it's like you see the truth, the paradoxical truth.
Yeah.
And to get back to your point of the psychosis, I feel like this constant talking to ourselves, I've noticed, is very hindering to our consciousness. The more I do it, the more I like hold conversations in my mind, maybe to keep my mind busy or to entertain certain ideas. the more it allows room for this other voice to come in, or even my own voice that I'm using to have this dialogue or monologue in my head could be used against me, because it might not even be my true voice, right? More
It's
of the
important to
ego.
know
Yeah.
yourself so that you can decipher whose voice it is. Because you can
Yeah.
tell. You can tell whose voice it is. I
Even
talk
if
to
it's like,
myself all the
yeah.
time. All the time. All the live long day. Like I'm just talking to myself. So I couldn't say that it hinders, but I can tell when it's a lower self, a higher self, or an inserted, when it's not mine at all.
Yeah. No, I just feel like when I'm like, no, stop, and let my mind quiet, then my whole energy just settles and everything is just so peaceful, and I'm able to just walk in that neutrality.
Mhm.
I'm not focused about what's going on throughout my
Mhm.
day.
Mhm.
But in terms of talking out loud, that I've heard that prayer out loud, prayer is much more beneficial in terms of achieving what you want, let's say. So let's say if you're like praying against demons, praying out loud, asserting your power out loud is more useful, more efficient. So
Yeah,
there seems
because
to
you're
be some,
using your power of
mhm,
voice,
yeah, there seems to be some connection there.
intention, and power of voice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
using the word to create.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, I did want to talk a little bit about the Tenet movie in terms. I hope you guys watch it if you haven't seen it, but it is connected to this whole time aspect and the Demiurge. So Tenet, the movie was made by Christopher Nolan, but he's very occulted. Obviously, this doesn't come simply from his mind. It comes from a Sator square, which is a magical square of Sator, which is Saturn, and it's a palindrome. So it can be read left to right and right to left, um, and you get the same thing. And the words as well, in terms of columns and rows,
Mm-hmm.
will alternate read left to right and right to left, to get the same word. So that being connected to Saturn, being connected to time, and in the whole movie, time is being both forward and backwards, is moving in both directions. Um, they've kind of discovered a way in the future to reverse time, so things are happening also in reverse and forward at the same time. Alludes to me that everything is connected, or everything that is happening has already happened and is happening in reverse in terms
Mm-hmm.
of these time cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So it's acting like this Fibonacci staircase, where
Mm-hmm.
once you go up, if you start in one point and you go up that staircase 180 degrees, you're going to end up facing the other way. And that's this idea of um, um, time being reflected and space also being reflected. And so then these dimensions that are, let's say, connected to us by this phi ratio are reflected. So as above, so below, waters above and below. But they're the same waters, same staircase, just mirrored. So mirror, 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 and layers of this cake all the way up and down. Um, yeah, so maybe if you guys watch that, we'll have a deeper conversation on it. But in terms of maybe what you see in the astral or wherever your consciousness travels, I wonder if you see this mirror effect happening that would coincide with my theory. Because I have
Mm.
heard of the astral plane being similar to the earth plane, right? In terms of everything being conducted there is also conducted here.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But
I've
I don't
been
know.
in seen different places. I couldn't tell you. Sometimes, yeah, the first initial question is, were you on Earth? Usually it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Usually not. So we could be somewhere else, could be on the other side of the mirror, uh, where we see like jump into aspects of self and those spaces. That's usually where I screw up the mission, because then I quantum jump into an aspect of self that's in a mission.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I'm like, yeah, I got in trouble the other night because we were on, I forgot what the whole context of it was, but it was almost very similar. I was like in a underground, like I find where I'm at are usually very, they feel familiar, but they're not exactly as they are here in the physical. So it felt like it was my old condo, but like an underground parking, like a really big parking space. And so we were on a mission against like the Nazis, or what felt like Nazi energy. And I had to go and lead. I don't know what was going on. And I was like, go, now what do I do? I was talking to my team, now what do I do? And they were just like, the girl was so pissed. The way she looked at me, she's like, are you kidding? Like, she's like, what? We're about to like do like the thing, you know?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I go, and what thing? So bad. I was like, you probably got us killed. I don't even know.
Oh man, yeah, you hopped to a
Yeah.
different timeline.
Oh fuck yeah. I fucked a lot of people up, I'm sure. I walking in, it's me. Like, I'm like, what are you guys doing here? You know?
That reminds me of that one movie. Yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, especially you, Tina. The one where he hops in a mission, but he's not from that timeline, and he's trying to save the world against this AI being, it's Alpha and Omega, and he's stuck in a loop. He keeps dying over and over, and this girl trains him. Forgot the freaking movie. But
You have to tell us when you remember.
Yeah.
yeah, I think you've seen it.
Oh, I have.
I think so.
Is it with Jake Gyllenhaal?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think we
I
watched
don't.
it.
We
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I think so. But anyway, yeah, no, we saw it also in that show, Electric Dreams.
Oh,
First
yeah.
episode 1. Did you watch the show yet?
No, sorry. I'm gonna get to it. I promise.
Get to that one, because watch episode 1, because it's exactly like that. Walking, like coming into an aspect and not knowing, you kind of have like a string of consciousness of the person you're jumping into. So you kind of get the gist of, I knew enough that I was on a mission, but I missed the punch to execute it, because it was me who was like, okay, now what, guys? But I was lead. They told me, like, I felt that I was the lead, but I was like, oh my God, I missed it. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, right, it was go time. It was terrible,
Yeah.
terrible, terrible. So yeah, I've had like really weird jump ins, like really uncomfortable jump ins, and um where again I feels very familiar, but it's not exactly. I have had a lot of dreams where they're connected to my parents' house, like where I grew up, the house that I grew up in. But it's very different. It's like it has a different feel to it. There's something weird there. But I was thinking like maybe it's tying into, because I've been abducted since forever, and or I've been part of the SSP program since forever, that it's my consciousness is kind of remembering that this is where they would take me, where they would return me, and overlaid on top of it, whatever it is. So there's something with my parents' house that always recurs in dreams for me. It's just a different version of it, or a different feel. So I don't know.
Do you think you can get stuck in different timelines when quantum jumping like that?
Maybe. That's why it's really important for people to call back their energy after dreams like that. Like calling back my energy that I may have lost or that is stuck in that realm. Because sometimes traumatizing things can happen in those dreams, and then you get woken up, and then it's kind of like, an impact in a car accident, like where you get projected out. So it's like you have to call back your energy and close that portal and cut all contracts or cut cords, whatever the case is. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Yeah, like you said, they could definitely be using our other bodies to swap our consciousness, or have pieces of our consciousness in those bodies in different timelines, and managing those as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
different movies, different roles.
Yeah. I've had an experience where a younger version of myself walked in to this one, because I remember I asked and set that intention. I would like to know what it feels like for something to come into me, so I know what they're experiencing when I go into them and fuck them up.
Karen, you're crazy. I love it.
So it happened. It was a younger version, like not that much younger. So I think when this happened, when was it? Like 2020, 2021, maybe? I don't remember, Tina. And then a 2016 version came in, because that was around the time when I was like dissociating a lot and doing a lot of healing. I was in a really bad space, dark night of the soul space. So I came into that body, and I remember feeling like this shock or this elation, like, oh my God, are we really with Tina? Like, it was so happy to hear, like,
I
did
was just
we
gonna ask
make
that. Yeah, does she know Tina?
yeah, no, did we make it? Did we finally get together? Like, it was so excited. And I was just like, in my head, I'm like, yeah. I go, why are we so excited about that? And then I was like, oh, I asked for this. I think that's why when that version of myself went back, there was always a part of me that always knew that Tina and I would end up together. I just knew. And it was probably because it jumped into the future, which was that present. So
Exactly.
maybe that was the part of the
Smile.
mirror effect that you're talking about in some ways, in a smaller way.
Well, if it's all overlaid on top of each other, right? This past, present, future scenario. So past starting here, future opposite, and then, or sorry, past, present, opposite, future opposite to that.
Mm-hmm.
They're all connected. They can all communicate with each other. So
Mm-hmm.
time is circular, but if you look at it from above, it's circular. If you look at it from the side, you see where it's separated. You see the different
Mm-hmm.
lines that it's operating in, where it seems like it's going straight, but all of a sudden it turns like the staircase.
Yeah.
That's why I always, because
yeah, go ahead.
I like investments. I'm like, oh dang it, I missed it there. But I'm like, in my mind, this is what I would have done if I was back in time. So I'm like communicating to my past self, like, hey, do this. So when we're here in the present and we get intuition coming from, let's say, the future, that's likely our future self telling us.
I think that's what happens to Tina and I all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Because we go through sessions and then Tina's like, oh my God, I just read this article last night. And it's always the same conversation where I'm like, I bet I bet you did. It always happens to us every time. Like the next day we have a session or we do something or we talk about something and she's like, I saw that the night before. So there is some kind of thing. And I'm wondering, because I'm just like, I go, imagine like we do these incredible readings, but it's because we're going in the future and coming back and we're just getting like, we're cheating in a way.
We're
like
cheating.
we're cheating in a way. Like, but yeah, just with that scenario of me like going back to that older or the younger version of myself, I knew exactly when when our relationship was going to start. I knew exactly the timeline. I just knew that this was the year. This is it. It was weird.
No, it makes sense. And even with the conversation with the Demiurge idea, we go back to the actual movie, The Matrix, where Neo's talking to the architect, the Demiurge. I didn't catch this at first, but then I heard it in a video, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Not just Neo, it's all of the Neos, which are reflected on the screen behind the architect. So all of the anomalies that woke up and started realizing things came together in one consciousness and pulled themselves out of all the timelines and said, here I am. And, the architect has accounted for this. And he's like, oh, you're just an anomaly. We're going to get rid of you when we reset. So, like, if you, in this moment, you've realized, you've remembered your true essence, right?
Mm-hmm.
You then project that into the past and the future all at the same time. And you say, all my selves come together. If you're intent, you come together and say, we're done. We're leaving. No more timelines. No more stories. I don't want to do this anymore. And I imagine that's how you bring yourself together. You pull that consciousness out of all of the emotions, all of these scenarios, all of the roles you've been playing, because your past lives, you may be in Egypt, whatever, whoever you are, whoever you think you are, it's all happening at the same time. It's just different dimension, likely,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're
Mhm.
pulling from that
Mm-hmm.
dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Bring that all together and say, all right, AI God, I've had enough of your shenanigans.
Yeah, pull
And
the plug.
exactly, yeah, pull that plug.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what we're always trying to fucking do is pull the dang
Yep.
plug.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so the web is so big. How often and how much we have to clear ourselves every day just because we get interwebbed with people, with clients, with and then their networks. Like we've discovered this whole thing about networks and the creation of the meta and how they're doing it and how interwebbed and layered, multi-layered it is. So we're just always pulling shit out all the time. It's annoying. So I
Yep.
understand when people are like, all right, give me the option. Like, where do I sign Demiurge? Like, I'm done with it. Like, I get it, but you have to really understand the ramifications of giving up your heart. I couldn't even imagine giving up a piece of like that. That's such a big piece. That's really like our true divine connection. That's what connects us to the real world, I presume. And how and that's the key to get out. And I think that's why they want us to not have the key to get out of here.
So you think it's what, pure love? Is that what spirit would be?
Or the portal within to get out, to project yourself out. I think that's why I can,
Okay.
like how you say, like I could maybe bring myself out of this space, but I'm here still, I am still physical. But in order for me to do all of my, traveling, like the traveling that we do for sessions and things like that, it's all within. I don't connect to anything outside of me to do it.
Yeah. I wouldn't trust you if you did.
Well, that's it. But people do because they put so much, like the program is that you have to put power on something that's outside of you because I'm the lower self or whatever. My higher self is outside of me. That's what they teach, but it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, again, another reverse mirror of like us thinking that everything's out there, but it's really in here.
Right, exactly. Yeah, looking in the mirror, you think, oh, it's that one. No, that one.
Yeah, it's really.
You're the one causing
I'm the one. I'm the real one.
You are the one. Yeah, you are the one. You're
You're the
talking
one. Yeah,
to the Demiurge. You are the one, Neo.
you're the one. Yeah, we are the one.
And
Exactly.
Neo is a anagram of one. So
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
What do you think then about the concept of the spirit being trapped in the body?
I don't think it I wouldn't say that it is. I think it's just what animates our form,
Right.
really,
Yeah.
right? We have so many programs that animate the body, right? Because we have seen people who have gotten the shot that ended up getting ejected out, but the body's still animated. But
Yeah.
it's because it's running through old programs and where it gets stunted, right? The stunt. So it does have its own battery power until the body runs out of its own juice and then it dies. But in terms of the spirit, I don't feel that we are enslaved. Like I think we are until we're not. It's really up until the consciousness, like until we wake up. I think that's all it is.
It's interesting how programs can still run somebody's personality, and you wouldn't notice a difference until you started going deeper. Like I've met these types of people where it's like, oh, you are a normal person. You seem very normal. You're even kind,
You see,
passionate,
right?
affectionate.
They're just mirroring.
Yeah. Until I'm
Again.
like, what do you think about this or that? Well, no, you need
Yeah.
evidence. It doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? And all of a
Right,
sudden,
because
the persona switches.
There's
they
no
don't have,
critical thinking.
yeah, or access to their own, to a higher awareness. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
interesting
think
that we have mirror neurons in our bodies. too.
exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of mirror,
Yeah. Mirror
Oh,
neurons.
what's that mean?
Yeah.
it's
Tell us.
mirror neurons. Like, when you could sit across from somebody and sometimes they like mirror
Oh,
your
yeah.
expressions or mirror even your emotions or body language. That's an innate human ability because of our mirror neurons.
Oh, I get it. That makes
Yeah.
sense because that's how it used to be. Like when I would, when you see parents feed their babies, they're always like, they open their mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the
Yeah,
baby imitates.
right.
But it's
And
also the cause of the high mentality.
yes, and it's the cause for empathy. So people that have like a larger amount of mirror neurons have more empathy.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I can understand. I see. I know it in terms of the brain seeing someone else do something, interprets it as itself doing that thing. So when I was big into soccer, I watched a lot of professional soccer players do things that I wanted to do, and it was like basically me doing them because I could see it being done.
Mm. There was just a study, and I don't remember the details of it, but it speaks to the power of our minds. And it goes something like this. They did a study where um, one group of people worked out in the gym every day to
Yes.
build muscle mass, and the other group of people went to the gym and just thought about it. They thought about working out. And actually, the people that just thought about it gained more muscle mass than the people that actually worked out.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I think it's up to about 6 months because I think they did the similar study on someone that was injured in the hospital and wasn't able to actually move. And he said it was up to 6 months that they were able to gain the same or more amount of muscle mass.
Mhm.
But it's very likely that it might have just been limited by that person.
Like it took him 6 months. Is that what you're saying?
Saying he had the same benefits as someone that would have gone to the gym until the 6 month period. After
Oh,
six
okay.
months, people start experiencing more benefits by
More
actually doing stuff.
benefits. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think that also it speaks to like the combination of thought and action and the benefit of that,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're reaffirming a belief system by putting forth the action into
Right.
it.
Yeah, totally.
So, what I think this was on your podcast that you did in terms of okay, the collective consciousness. Let's say if all three of us got together with our intent to, I don't know, collapse the matrix or something, and we sat down and imagined that and whatever that would entail. How would that fare against the collective consciousness, though, right? Because we see they always use that against individuals that are more rebellious in thinking, more connected to their awareness. Does that individual consciousness stand a chance against the larger consciousness that has been built up, let's say like this AI mind? Can it shape even that collective consciousness, or would it only shape their own personal reality?
I think it would only be an individual thing. I
Yeah.
think. I don't think you could destroy the whole collective consciousness.
Right.
I think you
Exactly.
can only take care of your own part.
Yeah.
And if it
Right.
will build its own momentum and everyone gets on the same train of like, we'll tear it down, then yeah, everyone will be able to tear down their own part and thus tearing the whole thing down. But to do like three of us combined and being like, I don't think that'll work.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
But
The limitation. Go ahead.
right, there is a limitation.
Yeah.
Exactly. We might not be able to like dissolve the matrix, but we could make changes, maybe in our own lives or um in other people's lives, you know. But
Yeah.
as like I think when you start doing things like that, you kind of have to start small and work your way up and build your energy and power.
Yeah. Because there are unconscious and even conscious people out there in the collective that are
Right.
still creating. So even if we tear it down, it's still going to be creating. So I couldn't say that it'll catch up to it. But
Yeah, it's more so removing your
I
energy
think
from it.
I think the self-mastery key is also the other thing. Like the only way to really break through the matrix is through the self-mastery.
Yeah.
Because then you are completely not part of this. You won't need the system. Like it's not in need of the system. You're independent of the system.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is
And
what they stop that. They limit that.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if, it's like the quote that says, if you want to change the world, change yourself, because
Back to the
that's
mirrors.
where, and if you want to bring more awareness to the world, bring that awareness to yourself. Because that awareness, like there's a ripple effect that happens when we know ourselves and understand ourselves and heal ourselves. There's a ripple effect that happens in our reality that we might not be consciously aware of or actually see the effects, but sometimes we do. Sometimes we do. So,
Yeah. Man
yeah.
in the Mirror by Michael Jackson.
Man in
Just
the
love that
mirror.
song.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
all right. Anything else you guys want to add? I promise I'll watch that series.
Just watch at least the first episode.
How many?
It's
how many
like not.
seasons?
No, it's only one season, and I
One
think it's
season?
7 or 8 episodes. They're
Oh,
like
yeah.
about 45 to an hour. Not really
Mhm.
long. But the first episode was really like, I was like, well, there it is. That's
Remind me the
what
first one
quantum.
again.
It's the VR where they would quantum jump into the VR
Oh,
Oh.
and literally landing in a body, and they're like, it was the exact same scenario that happened between Tina and I when I quantum jumped into my body when we were on a mission. And I had a pistol and I was asking her because she was literally like saying like, let's go, And I was just like, how do I work this thing? Like, what do I do? And she really turned around. She's like, are you fucking kidding me right now? So I probably got us killed there too. Maybe it's good to get all of our aspects killed at some point so there's less merging.
Yeah. But that begs the question: why was there no one already in that body to begin with?
No, I think it's like
Or where
kind
did
of
the
like
other
what I
person go?
said. I think they were there. They were just kind of pushed to the side. It's just like I was having the experience in the body.
Okay.
Just like how I asked myself, what does it feel like to have something
Yeah.
jump into me? So it was the same thing. It was a very subtle movement, like a subtle shift in myself, which is why I had those thoughts that I knew were mine, but it was such an excitement that did not belong to me in that moment. It was like, wow, like I was so excited. I can't believe you did it. Like it was, and I was like, oh, that's cute. It was subtle, but it wasn't taking me over, but enough to be like, I was able to observe it.
Interesting.
but here's the thing, like we can use that consciously. Like we can quantum jump consciously to connect with aspects of ourselves that have the skills, qualities, and talents that we want and need in the here and now.
Oh yeah, Silvio, that'll help you with making your 80K a year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you quantum jump into an aspect of self that is, let's say, has ideas or, whatever it is, entrepreneur thing, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever your intention is, you can have the intention to jump into that aspect, gain their knowledge because it is you, bring it back here into the physical, and then live it out.
Yeah. There's a video that I just shared with our group that I'll send you. It's a guide. He tells you, like, he walks you through the exercises on how to connect with your aspects. So that,
French guy?
No, he's an older guy. Yeah, I don't even know if he's still alive, to be honest, but
Okay.
Quantum
it's
jumped in
like
a younger version of himself.
yeah.
He died and like went there.
Yeah, but
Probably doing that.
yeah. But yeah, you can jump or connect with that aspect of yourself. Like for example, the other day one of our clients asked to see another aspect of herself that would be helpful for her in the here and now. And she saw a chemist in a lab who was confident and sure of herself and had the discipline that she needed and the routine. And she really was like an alchemist in her world. So she was able to really sink into that energy and feel it and get advice from her um and pull that energy into her here and now so that she'll have access to those qualities. So yeah, it's a really cool thing that we can do. Humans are amazing when we know how to use the capability of our consciousness.
Yeah, exactly.
Exercise of the spirit.
Yeah, I think that's what's really important. Having those, and then being able to make a fully informed and conscious decision on what you would like to do. Not that, oh, we need to learn lessons. At best, this is an experience which shows. At best, it's not a lesson.
Yeah, it's just another Best Buy experience.
Best Buy experience. Yeah.
Now, somebody
Which, by
said
the
the
way,
other day, go ahead.
I was gonna say, by the way, they have like 0 employees there.
Really?
But there's like a bunch of robots that are like, here is your motherboard, Mr. Silvio.
It probably will be at one point.
Yeah, but someone said the other day, I'm here to wake up. And that really hit me. I think that is the goal for us. We're here to wake up and know who we are.
Yeah. Is it hot where you are? It's pretty cold over here.
I'm hot.
Okay, Tina.
I'm getting zapped. No, I'm getting zapped with something like a weapon or something right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been cold here. But all right, ladies, thank you so much for the wonderful conversation as always.
Thanks for having us, Silvio. It's always
thank you.
lovely to speak with you.
Hope everyone enjoyed the video. Go check out their channel as well, Quantum Healing with Tina and Karen. They have lots of new videos they've been posting, so do check out the information that they're offering. And let us know down in the comments, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Bye.
Peace.